Hello, everybody. Eli, got you coming on stage here. Give a few minutes for people to filter in, and then we'll get started.
Hey.
Hey, Eli. How are you doing?
How you doing?
Good.
Actually, Ellie.
Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Great. I can hear you as well.
Perfect. Just you and me tonight? Yeah.
Yeah, David is tied up in some political things going on in New Jersey right now, it sounds like.
All right.
And just as a kind of general view on what we're trying to accomplish tonight is Eli's gonna run over a lot of the kind of high level stuff, anything related to the law in Illinois and that side of things. I don't know, Eli, do you want to give yourself a brief introduction, and then I'll do the same after that, and then we'll kind of rocket launch it after that.
Sure. So it's actually Ellie. So my name is Eli Scheiman. I am a partner at the law firm of Porzio, Bromberg Newman. Our hub is in Morristown, New Jersey. I am the chair of our cannabis practice. I'm also the chair of the International Cannabis Bar Association's Legislative Advisement Committee, where we advise regulatory bodies and legislative entities throughout the country on pending legislation and kind of best practices, and help them guide them towards making informed decisions. So I've been practicing in the space for about coming up on 4 years now on the licensing and compliance side. My firm is a full practice law firm, so we touch all parts of the cannabis licensing process. We also have a lobbying subsidiary, which is particularly helpful in this space, and I'm happy to be chatting with you about this.
Great, thanks, Ellie, and thank you for the correction on the pronunciation. I appreciate that.
No worries.
Nothing worse than going on, for an hour saying it the wrong way.
I figured I'd do that at the outset. Yep.
Yeah. So thank you for your introduction as well. My name is Walter Moore, and I'm a managing partner at Cognitive Harmony Technologies. And my management is focused on the technology implementation of the platform and all of these sort of what we've created is essentially an end-to-end strategy for getting a competitive license submitted to, in your state. So, this is born. It's kind of one of those things. Necessity is the mother of invention, right? We have struggled really to figure out and put a lot of time and effort into trying to figure out what a perfect score in Illinois looks like, because it's a competitive system, and every little minutia of your application is associated with a point value. And so we built some software in Illinois that scanned and used some natural language processing and machine learning techniques to then figure out whether or not the application exhibit was compliant with the law, and use that as a basis for scoring. And then that evolved into this partnership with Harvest 360 and kind of bootstrapped the creation of this accelerator program, because what they're bringing into the program is all of the learning resources and all the technical materials. We've got a system for kind of like templating every part of the application process. But that is no good if you don't have the consulting resources, the coaching, the help, and the all of the learning. You don't know what you don't know, so you have to first start from the beginning. And some people that know a lot and can jump right in, but this is meant to be an end-to-end solution for that. So my technical experience is in really just all software engineering in general. I've worked in high frequency trading, at implementing systems automation and ad tech systems automation, and many different spaces. And when I ran into the problem of figuring out how to get a winning application in cannabis, I was like, this is ridiculous. First of all, in order to put together a competitive application, if one minute detail in the law changes, the implications on updating your application to maintain its full point status are huge. I mean, you're doing text search through hundreds, if not thousands, of pages of text trying to figure out what to change just because one little detail of the application changed. And so it's absurd, really, that there aren't tools in place to deal with it. So that's my pitch, and that's where we want to go with this is get everybody the best application submitted that they possibly can. And I'm here to answer questions from the technical and engineering and software side, system side, and Ellie's here to answer questions about the broader business space and legal space. So thank you. And Ellie, do you want to kick off the rest of your, I don't know if we could divide it, half and half, or I suppose most of the questions are going to be for you, really, when it comes to
Maybe not. And I see a bunch of people who have been joining us from the outset since David and I had started this. So some of them are going to be very familiar. But actually, before I jump in, I just want to talk a little bit about more of your piece and kind of the shortcut aspect of what you're doing and why it's so important. I mean, I haven't really demoed the program myself. I mean, I've seen some of it, but from a legal and a lawyer perspective, the biggest issue with competitive licensing, which I assume New Jersey will be going forward, it has been in the past, is that all the information is contained within a knowledge elite class that has access to everything, and all of the materials have traditionally been very expensive to get through. The licensing application process not process. It's one of the most convoluted things you'll experience when you're navigating a regulatory legal system. And it's not like any other kind of licensing. Normally licensing is pretty straightforward. You're just working with forms, standard forms. You fill out some information, you can template everything, and you just submit. Here, state to state, it's different. You have different municipal components and state components, and how they're scoring it is often not clear at all. You can have multiple judges scoring the same thing in different ways. There's no uniform criteria. So at least as I understand what you're trying to do here, Walter, is you're basically short-circuiting all of that to some extent and coming up with, I don't know, I mean, I'll let you explain it better, but a software solution to this problem, which makes it more affordable. And it gives everyone more of an equal access to that elite knowledge that's always been sequestered up until now.
For sure. And actually, yeah, let me do just a quick kind of high level demo. I think that's a good place to start, unless we have enough questions built up yet here. We've got a couple, but let's get through a little high level demo so we have more material to answer questions over. And I will share my screen here. And you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, great. So, there's really three broad kind of categories of services that are built into the program. As you can see on the left here under apps, we've got an educational component, and that's where you'll access the kind of core information that you need in order to get started with a cannabis business of any type. And each one, the learning paths, the study guides, the presentations, they're all organized somewhat similarly. The study guides, you can see, we've got vertical specific classes of study guides. We've got introductory study guides and study guides that apply to all license types. These study guides are, some of them are going to be very specific to New Jersey, and some of them are not. So environmental impact plan, for instance, if we look at a study guide for that, you can see, there's everything from packaging, water quality, cultivation, environment. I mean, these are highly detailed study guides, and these are not templates. Okay, these are just information that you need to understand getting into the business in order to interpret the law correctly. And templates are yet another kind of layer on top of this. Then there are, what we've got are presentations where you'll have presentations specific to each one of those verticals that walk you through, aspects of that vertical. Live streams based, basically like what you're have tuned into right now, which will be focused on specific aspects of the licensing process. The learning paths are video oriented. We've got a great partnership with Green Flower Media, and they've got some great training material for really any position in the company. And then the coaching sessions, these are things that areas where you can schedule a coaching session with your to answer questions about an operating agreement, whether it's this little clause in your operating agreement is going to be compatible with the law or something like that. These are things that are really tough to automate on our side, but we can offer professional help and hook you up through the system to professional coaching sessions as part of your registration cost. And then we get to the fun part. So once you have the knowledge and the information necessary to put together a successful application, and you have the resources of coaches and consultants to guide you through interpreting that knowledge in terms of the New Jersey license application process, then we actually need some tools to manage the complexity of the data. Because like I was saying, one small change in the law, one small change in the cap table of your organization could have implications across all of these documents, and it becomes a data management problem. So the first part of the later, what we're calling phase 2 of the program, is to model the data behind your company. So here you can see we've got companies that we have modeled, and their high-level parameters are modeled in the system, and then therefore accessible by all the templates. So our templates and our data are totally separate. This is a radical departure from what you'll find with most of the templating systems out there. What you're going to get with most templating systems, you're going to pay $5 to $20 grand for a PDF that you have to, or a Word doc or something that you're going to have to parse apart, chase down the important pieces that matter and don't matter, and swap out variables like stakeholders. But with our system, these are going to be, once the New Jersey application comes out, these will be customized templates that are loaded from this data. And so it's really a data-driven document generation system is what this amounts to. And sometimes documents consist of other documents. So here, we've organized all the digital assets required for this company. We've got certificates of good standing, shareholders agreements, bylaws, articles of incorporations, all the fun stuff connected to this company and set up for usage in the templating system. The templates themselves are, they have more than just company data in them. So here you can see we've got, let's see, something a little more fun. Strains. So we've got ice cream cake. What do we know about ice cream cake? Seed Junkie Genetics, gelato crossed with wedding cake. We got some, we can really kind of give this strain a profile, and as the profile changes, we don't have to chase it down and within one jurisdiction, maybe multiple documents and update it in multiple documents. In multiple jurisdictions, now you're trying to figure out, which jurisdictions you applied with which strains and trying to manage that updating of things. So, we want to manage each nugget of data in exactly one place and then leverage that data in all our documents. That's the kind of core principle of the document generation system. And so, the other important piece here is jurisdiction data. So New Jersey data is somewhat incomplete at this time. Illinois is a little more complete, so it's a little more fun to look at. But here you can see, we've broken down the law into verticals: dispensary, craft grow, infuser. Within those verticals, the exhibits are modeled as templates. So you can see for Illinois dispensary applications, we've got Exhibit A, photocopy of a non-refundable fee. These are the line items that they're asking for, and they're telling you this is worth 50 points to have a security plan. That's great. If you get 49, if you only got 49 of these points in Illinois, you're not in the lottery. and that last point can be a needle in a haystack. Once you have modeled this high level, and I should say, when I say you have modeled, I mean CHT. CHT is modeling these things and providing them as part of the platform. We do have options for larger users who might already have their own version of all of this stuff that they want to use, and we can import that and support that as well. But the idea is that we're taking on the heavy lifting here, and that your application gets to benefit from it. So if you look at the security plan, you can see where we set some of this high level stuff, like the basic parameters that we were looking at above, but then we're drilling down here now into criteria. Security plan, has to have these checks in it. You have to have, there are 50 some citations, I think, on this one. And all the bold keywords, those are the keywords that we use in our scoring capabilities. So what we do is we know that any document that is submitted as an exhibit in an application needs to reference all of these statutory citations, and we do a kind of machine learning driven natural language processing approach to parsing all of the data out of your PDF and then searching it for these keywords on a citation or a statute by statute basis. And then we come up with a score. And the way that this worked in Illinois was that you can see here, we know all the companies that didn't get a perfect score in Illinois filed FOIA requests after the end of the release of all the winners, and so then we got our scores back from the state, and then we went through and we created. I'm sorry, I'm opening the wrong document here. We created a report, an automated report based off of, and this is the original kind of product that CHT developed, where we would go through using those bolded keywords that I was just showing you, and generate this report that tells the user, you're missing this citation and this citation. And then eventually you get to the ones that we found in the second list. So we found all of these citations by keyword matches. And so this was extremely, extremely useful for all of these companies in this last, you can see in Illinois, we went through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rounds of application. The initial round plus 4 deficiency rounds. And then we did that deficiency scoring system. We generated a report for the original application and then the final application. And then we look at our final report. And you can see that the final report has no missing citations because we went through the report, we fixed them all, and now when the state of Illinois reruns its scoring on this, we're assuming that they're using the same list that we are, and that list has been cross-referenced over and over and over again with all of our kind of industry contacts and other folks that we know are submitting applications, and you can do some inference through all of the various companies that we scored in here about how accurate we are based on our parameters. So that's the other kind of key piece that we're adding in here, and that's under development currently, but planned for release on. Like
Walter,
I said,
can I ask you a question on that?
Yeah.
In terms of the scoring, do you or have you developed any insight as to how the states that you've looked at are actually going through the process? I mean, do you think they're doing something similar, or is it kind of subjective? Because it's very technical.
Yeah. Some are going to be, there's some exhibits that have to be manually scored, right? Security exhibits usually have at least one piece that has to be manually scored, which is the security diagrams, any floor plans, things of that nature. Although we are working on systems to automatically score floor plans to use, machine intelligence to pick out if the right number of rooms are in there and that kind of thing. But we do know that KPMG, which is the group that won the contract in Illinois, that they were using a first pass scoring system, exactly like what we're using. Now, they started with the state's list. The state ultimately had to release the list to all applicants after, this mire that we've been in for a couple of years now, right? But initially, only the special people got the list. But the thing is that there's nothing on the list that isn't in the law. So at the end of the day, it's can you parse the law and divide it into the right groups of exhibits in an effective way, and that's our job. And if users are finding things that we're not putting in there, we're not going to stop them from using those and adding edge on top of what we are able to. But it's we do feel like we've got a very a solid approach there. So we take a first pass is with a machine, and then the second pass takes the machine output and then hand curates it. Because sometimes what you'll get is one statute actually has like 20 sub bullets baked into the paragraph, right? And some of that you just can't get away from doing that by hand because of the way that the law is structured.
Right. And there's the narrative component. I mean, so you have the substance, and then you have the form, kind of like getting your citations and making sure you're hitting all the points you need to hit. But it's also the way the application is written, the narrative, the story that you're telling, all of that matters as well in the overall presentation and how it's received. So it's kind of both. And as I understand it, this is your program is to help the applicants craft their own story. Is it like utilize the tools that you're providing to tailor it to specifically to their operations? Is that right?
Yeah. We're not trying to replace, like, it's never going to be, plug in the data and, push out a perfect application. There's just too much that's specific to you and your company, right? Like, and there is some narrative in there that matters. I know that, applications we've worked on in Illinois where social equity is a huge component. We have entire applications that are focused on social equity achievements and trying to implement co-ops and things of that nature. Whereas, a user who might be a sole proprietor will have a totally different need in that regard. And so what we're trying to do is template the pieces that we know will be required. Operating agreements, we can template, CapEx, OpEx type reports, anything that's a document that will, be a component of an exhibit, and then we help stitch all the components together into a final application. But there's going to be a lot of user inputs, and those inputs, a lot of times there are other documents that include that narrative. But there are places to include the narrative within the system as well. So as you're defining the people of your company, they each have, bios, and those bios are referenced several places throughout the story, or throughout the application. And the same for companies. Companies can have bios, and those bios will be carried through the application in various places. But yeah, there's no reason why it'll be limiting in any way as far as, what kind of story you can tell. And the idea will be that we need to facilitate you telling your personal story as part of the application without diluting compliance with, the law and getting all of the points, because that happens, it's difficult to insert the narrative everywhere, which is what most of the consultants will tell you to do, without, accidentally stepping on some statutory thing, so I think it's all about organization and keeping, one of the things that we found in Illinois is don't make it hard for them to score it. If you make it hard for them to score it, you're not doing yourself any favors. And so, if you look at the checklists that have come out of Illinois, they're all, in the order that the law is written, first of all. And like, don't take things out of order, because their checklist is going to be in order. And so our checklist will be in the same order as theirs, because we want them to, and in fact, we started just including a checklist with our applications. And, part of what CHT will do is have like a master checklist where you can go through, and it will, ideally it'll just show you where you're missing the checks. And so, get that as, the header almost. We put it's, instead of having a table of contents, we have a checklist, and the checklist links to the part of the document that reinforces that check mark that you're compliant in.
Yeah, it's a really good idea.
Yeah,
really good idea.
and it's one of those things that is hard. It takes time if you have to do it manually. It's really difficult to evolve and maintain your document, because those bookmarks get moved, and yeah, it just becomes fun.
Walter, I got to jump off screen for 2 seconds. I'll be right back. Sorry.
Okay, so while Ellie is hopped off, I'll hit on some of these questions here. Let's see, bottom. I'll start at the bottom. Are we able to have Class 1 and Class 2 license as a micro business? I'll have to let Ellie answer that. I'm not familiar with that. When will the scholarships applicants know of their status for the accelerator? So what I understand is that the scholarships are being evaluated as we speak, that the list of 90 submissions were delivered to nj.com like earlier today, or on the close of the application period. And although I don't have a date on that, I think it will be happening here quickly. It's not going to take them very long to decide. Is a business plan included in Tier 1? So we've kind of taken, after considering the value of the different tiers, we really have tried to, consolidate and simplify and just give everybody as much value as possible. So we've reduced it to a single tier. The single tier is application accelerator, and it will include all the pieces that you need to put together a business plan, and we'll walk you through assembling the business plan. So any of the financial reports or operating agreements, shareholders agreements, these kinds of things that need to be might need to be templated and included. We don't have specifics about what the business plan is going to require yet, but the idea is we have all this stuff. We've used it in other states already. What we're going to do is make it available in our templating system and make it easy for you to use. So yeah, I would say yes, a business plan is included. Someone tried to purchase Tier 1 and it would not allow. Okay, so we just recently transitioned into full functionality as early as yesterday, about midday. So we just really officially opened up registrations yesterday. So try again if you are unable to still purchase. Really, all that's required is an initial deposit, and then you have 10 days to pay the remainder of the cost of the program. But if you're having any difficulty whatsoever, please contact me, Walter at cognitiveharmony.tech, and I will make sure that you get what you need to register and get your place reserved if you're having any difficulties with the site whatsoever. We saw some issues on mobile yesterday. I believe those are all resolved, but if you're still having any issues, just feel free to reach out directly to me. How long is the early bird discount available? So that's going to be available until August 1st, which is our, I think the 2nd or the 3rd is our launch date. And that will give you the $2,000 discount off of the $16,000 total cost. The initial $500 deposit is non-refundable. And that is something that you pay at registration time. You can pay with a credit card or ACH. And then an invoice will go to you discounted for the remainder. And you can pay that, credit card or ACH, or if there's another payment method that you prefer to use, crypto, whatever, just reach out to me directly. You can contact me at Walter at cognitiveharmony.tech, and we'll get it figured out for you. Had we received a confirmation that our scholarship application was submitted via email? I think, so this is a question for David, and I'll take note of it and send it to him right now and see if he can't get me an answer for you while we are on this here live stream.
While you're doing that, Walter, so I see a question about from David. Are we able to have a Class 1 and Class 2 license as a micro business? So the answer to that is it's going to be difficult to do so. There's a restriction in the statute right now for anyone that has a financial interest and decision-making authority for a micro business license against holding a financial interest in any other license. So if you have both of those criteria in, let's say, your cultivation, your micro business cultivation, it's going to prevent you from having a financial interest in a manufacturer, which would not be a problem for an annual license, just the micro business license.
Thanks, Ellie. And to answer the question about confirmation email, I got a message back from David. He said, no, there was no confirmation email. As long as you got to the confirmation screen or that showed that you'd submitted it, that you were included in the list. I'll take your name down and make sure that you were on there. Okay. Any other questions? Or Ellie, did you have any other material you wanted to go over?
I mean, I'm happy to go over general stuff. I don't know, how much the audience knows or doesn't know. I don't necessarily want to repeat stuff that everyone knows. I mean, high level, we have 6 adult use license classes that are available. Retail, cultivation, manufacturing, delivery, distribution, and wholesale. You have 3 different pathways to getting those licenses, either the annual license, right? So you can apply for any of those 6 through the annual route, which is really just a traditional license, very few restrictions. The conditional process, which you can use for both an annual license and a micro business license. It's really just an abbreviated license application process. I can't tell you exactly how it's abbreviated at this point because the state hasn't told us. But in theory, you're only going to be doing a little bit upfront to apply for that license. And then once you get the conditional license, you have 4 months, 120 days, barring any extensions, to get to full licensure. So still, the parameters of that license process are somewhat unclear, but 35% of the total licenses in any class are supposed to be earmarked towards conditional licenses. So it's a good pathway because it's always easier to get money after you have that license in your hand. The third pathway is the micro business, which most people are familiar with. 100% New Jersey residency consecutively for the prior 2 years. Then you have to have 51%, I'll call it residency, in either the host municipality or the bordering municipality. There are a couple of different ways of getting to that 51%, which is still somewhat unclear at this point. We need the regs for that as well. But so 100% New Jersey ownership, 51% residency in the host or bordering municipality. Then you're capped to 10 employees and 2,500 square feet, essentially. So the best possible pathway, if you can do it, is to combine the micro business with the conditional license application, because that should have the least competition from well-capitalized, out-of-state existing operators. But that's kind of the general overview. I assume most of the folks here are going to be looking at the micro business licenses, but because of the way the state is set up with the bifurcation between state licensing and municipal level licensing, even that is going to be very challenging, right? So New Jersey has a home rule state. Each of the 565 municipalities have the right to opt out or opt in by August 21, which is coming up. But that's also the deadline for the CRC to issue its regulations, which a lot of the municipalities are complaining about, and I think rightly so. It's hard for them, particularly lacking experience in this area, to kind of opt in fully knowing, without knowing what the regulations are. There were some legislative attempts to extend that deadline, but it doesn't look like any of those will pass. So August 21 opt out, opt in deadline. August 21 is also the deadline for the regulations, and 30 days thereafter, we're supposed to have applications beginning to be accepted and processed, whatever that means, whether that's going to be an application round with, let's say, 30 to 45 days to submit applications, or more of an open enrollment type thing. We just don't know yet. But because of the fact that the municipalities are, either opting in or opting out, the ones that are opting in predominantly are doing so with their own local licensing process. This is really the most complex part of it, right? If you just had to deal with the state process, it would be one thing. But a lot of the municipalities are going to require applications, either before the state does their thing, or it could be concurrent. It could be after. Some of the requirements are actually different. Municipalities are looking at imposing different criteria than the state is, which makes things complicated. And a lot of them are going to be competitively scored by municipalities that really don't know anything about cannabis scoring. So it's, even for a micro business, or conditional license applicant, you have the benefit from a state perspective, but from a local perspective, it's going to be very challenging. It's going to be very challenging. So these types of programs that can kind of short circuit a lot of the pain of going through the process should be pretty helpful. And I guess I'm wondering if you could actually translate some of that to the local level as well. I don't mean to put you on the spot, Walter, but I'm just thinking out loud as we're talking.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing that we model jurisdictions, not so you could be in multiple jurisdictions at the same time, right? You can be in New Jersey, but you're also in the U.S. And then we know there's a lot of federal changes occurring right now, right? And not just for decriminalization, but there's bigger movements for banking reform and all kinds of things. But along with that is going to come more regulations, right? The game has always been, regulations. Yes, they make the product safer, but they come with a cost, which raises the barrier to entry. And so, there's a sweet spot there that can be achieved, but not if the only ones who can afford to play are, the well-funded. But yeah, I mean, there's absolutely no reason why if any municipality comes out with its own application process that we wouldn't be able to bootstrap all the data that you've already entered in the system and then transform it into a different type of application. I'm not saying without any involvement on your part. There's always going to be the nuances specific to your situation. We can recommend different pathways and that kind of thing, but it'll definitely be a head start over just nothing. And I don't know, Ellie, do you know if there is any place where it's being tracked as far as which municipalities have opted in, and how people can figure out if their location is viable?
Yeah, there's the easy way and there's the hard way. The easy way is there's subscription software that you can apply for. I mean, I have it, and you basically get live updates on every meeting that happens and every proposed ordinance, and tracking reports daily. Short of that, you got to kind of go on to the website for the municipalities that you're interested in, and they always have agendas and proposed ordinances that are available. It just requires you to manually do the work. But as long as you know where you're looking, it's not that challenging
Yeah.
to do it.
Well, that's one of the other things that we want to, or that we have built into CHT, which is, any statute or group of statutes, we can provide extra links to information that is relevant to that context. So we'll be linking a lot of that stuff where people need it. But yeah, definitely something to keep in mind. I know it's been a challenge in other states, and that in California, all the power is also with the local, hyper local municipalities. So yeah, that's great information. What else we got here? Will the service be tailored to all business types? So the deal is we'll support one vertical per accelerator, entrance. So the $16,000 will take you through one complete application process. So you got to pick dispensary, and this will happen when the program goes live on the first of the month. You'll need to pick kind of which path you're going to go down. If you want to do multiples, we will have an offering for that. But our main goal is to support those who need it the most, and that's with one single application. So because as soon as you're talking about both a dispensary and a grow, or a manufacturing and a grow, that doubles the coaching requirements on our side, and the because a grow security plan is radically different from a retail security plan, and when you're analyzing those kinds of things, you're going to need two separate sessions, one for each. But yeah, if you have any more questions on that, we can talk about it as soon as we launch. But right now it's one vertical. Yeah, so the one tier it's actually $16,000. It's $2,000 for early registration. So it brings it down to $14,000 if you register early. And then there's the $500 deposit. So the invoice price that comes to you is $13,500 after you paid the initial deposit. And you have until the program starts to pay that. 9 miles away from where I want to open up, is that within the border that's accepted?
So the 9 miles in and of itself is not relevant. I assume we're talking about the micro business restriction that I was talking about before, with the 51% being either in the host municipality or the bordering municipality. So that's, as I understand it now, that's determined by physical borders. So if you're in a municipality that is physically bordering the other municipality, that's okay. But if there's another municipality or a sliver of another municipality that's in between, that's only 1 mile. It doesn't matter. It wouldn't qualify. Maybe the regs will change that, but that's my current understanding.
And this is a license density issue? Is that what they're like? You can't open up within 9 miles of another license?
It's for, if I'm understanding the question, it's for the micro business criteria that you need to have 51% of the owners, officers, directors, or employees within either the host municipality where you want to be, or the physically bordering municipality. And so the mileage is not the determining criteria. It's whether or not you're in the host or physically bordering.
Adjacency is the key. Okay.
Yep.
That's interesting. Let's see, will the program be self-paced, or will there be live webinars, etc.? So it can be either. There will be live webinars. There's no hard requirement to complete them in order to access any further content. They're purely there to keep you paced going through the material if you need to know what pace to go through the material at. If you are coming in with a lot of experience in the industry, maybe you've operated cannabis businesses in Colorado or California, or you're partnering with someone who has, all of these things should just be there for value add and for your reference. The coaching sessions, we are limiting the number of them that you can use so that everyone gets to use them, and we're suggesting that you stretch them out over a period of time, because there's things we know now through our connection with the information the state has released, but then there's things that we'll know when they drop, and there's going to be a lot of demand for those coaching sessions at that point in time. So once you get into the system and are able to schedule your coaching sessions, it might even be strategically wise to pre-book those, just to make sure that they're we don't run out of capacity, because we do have a fixed number of coaches and consultants that will be available for the program, and we based on the amount of time between now and when we anticipate the application will drop, we assume we can handle at least a few hundred applicants into the program, and support at least 3 solid coaching sections for each one. But that will be TBD as the schedules start to fill up. And we will bring in additional coaches as necessary. The webinars are going to be hugely, I think, useful for people, because they'll be in this kind of format where people can ask questions, and then all the questions that we answer, we'll be able to capture and post and make available for other people as well. And we're also going to have the community support option as well, where we'll have the community forum for people to talk and discuss issues that they're having. And if there's go ahead. If there's anything that comes up in that forum that warrants bringing to the kind of the weekly webinars and stuff, then we'll do that. Can a class 1, 2, 3, 4 be in the same facility? I'm gonna have to leave that to Ellie. And can a dispensary be 24/7 like Vegas? God, I hope so, but I'm also gonna leave that one to Ellie when he gets back. Any other questions on here? We're running into the end of the hour. I'm definitely happy to stay on and answer more questions, and I'll definitely hang out here until Ellie gets back to answer these last couple on here. Yes, if we are not experienced in the cannabis space, will this program prepare us as efficient operators? Absolutely. The thing is that what we really want to do is make it so that when you are operating your business, that it's easy and stress-free to be compliant. So the same. Once you've actually submitted an application and won a license, then the challenge is actually staying compliant with your application and the evolving, the evolving law as it changes. And so, my vision for CHT is, pretty soon we're all going to be wearing around these augmented reality glasses. Ray-Ban's coming out with some this year, right? Our system has this idea that there's a QR code on everything. So imagine you're running a cultivation center, and you need to dispose of some cannabis waste, and rather than having to memorize every last detail of it, you should just be able to scan a QR code on the piece of equipment that you're working on that was entered into our system as a piece of equipment in a facility that's part of the company that has all these people working for it. And so since you're one of those people, you can look, you scan that thing, it should be able to tell you, based on the jurisdiction that you're running in, what the proper sequence of events is to be compliant. Oh, I got to do it on camera. The grinder has to, grind it down to this much, and it's got to have this much non-compostable material in it, or whatever the requirements are for your jurisdiction. And so, not only do we intend for this to make you efficient operators, we intend it to be a platform that's there to support you being compliant and stress-free throughout the process of operating your company eventually. So that's the long-term vision. And not only that, but the video material that we have, the study guides, the coaching sessions, all of these things are curated specifically for New Jersey, for this application process, to give you the most information that if possible going into this thing. And not only that, but then you have the materials themselves. So the operating agreements that we're templating, the application components, the standard operating procedures, which is an entire topic to itself, because the way we do standard operating procedures is very unique and powerful. But all of those things will, just working with the system will give you kind of intimate knowledge of the expectations as an operator. I'm going to back up just a few things here, because we had some questions for Ellie. So can a class 1, 2, 3, 4 be in the same facility?
So in theory, you should be able to hold multiple licenses at one location. You're not going to be able to hold a 1, 2, 3, and 4 concurrently. But as I understand it today, you should be able to hold multiple licenses in one location over time. Can the dispensary be 24/7 like Vegas?
Please say yes.
Doubtful. I mean, the state is not necessarily going to impose any time restrictions, but the municipalities will. And I can't think of a single municipality that's going to allow anything to be 24/7. To date, most of the controversy, frankly, on a municipal level has been from retail. Like all the municipalities have been more amenable to manufacturing, cultivation, wholesale, things that are tucked away in some industrial areas. So the retail, given that like the New Jersey towns tend to be really small, at least other than the big ones, the Hobokens and the Jersey cities, that's your best bet for something being like Vegas. But I don't think so. I don't think it's happening.
If you get chosen for the scholarship, what happens to the extra $4K? Can you apply it to the templates, or etc.? I'm not totally sure I understand this question. I'm going to try this button. Oh, I thought that would bring. Hold on. I have another way to do this. I'm just inviting the queue to join and ask the question outside the chat. Maybe it'll. David must be watching, because he says the 4K covers extra templates and extra coaching. Sorry, LQ. That was a little clunky. So yeah, he says it includes what you're asking. Will there be continued support and access to this program after the applications have been submitted to the state? So the idea is that we will support the application, through its life. Okay, so in Illinois, that, like I was showing you, was 5 application rounds of deficiencies. Because if we got a deficiency, I mean, we want to know why, and we want to help you fix it. Now, future rounds in New Jersey or any other state will be, we'll need a new registration for that. But this will carry you through the single application through its termination, whether that is as a successful license owner or a learning experience that will grow you into the next round. Because I'm sure there will be continued opportunities. But really, we're looking at being there the whole time for this this application. Thanks for addressing the questions. As we wait the launch of the program and NJ regulations, what are the best next steps? So I think we can both answer this in different ways. And you can answer, Ellie, the license cap part. My experience is, this is going to sound painful, but reading the law, I sat there when the law dropped in both New Jersey and Illinois. I sat down with it. It's not a thriller, okay, and there are no cliffhangers in there. But if you don't know what's in there, it's going to be difficult to put together a good application. But we are trying to curate some of that for you and deliver it in the platform as well. So, but that's one resource that you have available to you that's out there that you don't need access to the program yet in order to actually make progress with. The other thing is, there's some things that I think you just know you're going to need. I don't know, Ellie, you're probably better to answer this, but where do they start with structuring, starting to gather documents and so on and so forth? Legal.
Yeah, well, first of all, I like the answer about reading the statute, because I think a lot of people skip that step, and it is painful, and even for lawyers, it's horrible. Particularly this bill is just not very clear. It's a cut and paste job cobbled together from various other states, and so it is painful. I probably reread it about once a week at this point, sometimes twice a week, and every time you read it, you see something new. So the more you dive into it, particularly as you're starting to write your application, the more you'll see. So I agree. It's a great recommendation. In terms of where to start, it's really property and your municipality, and figuring out what type of license you're going for, because all that's going to dictate the structuring in the corporate formation. I mean, you can set up a company at any time on short notice, but if you don't know what type of license you're applying for, you're not going to be able to structure your cap table, your ownership table in an appropriate way, your operating agreements appropriately, because all that ties back to what we were talking about before in terms of the conditional license. There's certain eliminating criteria there. If you earned a certain amount of money in the prior preceding year, you can't be on the ownership table. Same thing with a micro business, right? And there are also a bunch of certifications, minority, women, disabled veteran-owned certification that you can get through the state. To do so, you need to have business documents in hand, but all that again goes to how you're structuring your company. If you're giving 51%, let's say, female ownership to a company, but you want to apply for a micro business license and none of those 51% are in the host municipality or the bordering municipality, it's not going to work for you. So you gotta think first and foremost, what license am I applying for? And a lot of that goes to capital. And then where can I get the property? And actually trying to tie up the property. Those are your threshold things you need to do, first, and everything else follows. In terms of the license caps, there's no hard cap in the statute on any licenses other than cultivation for the first 24 months, and that's the first 24 months running from the effective date of the bill, which is February 22, 2021. So for the first 24 months, there's a 37 cap on cultivation licenses, but that doesn't apply to micro businesses. So micro businesses are exempt from that, and that 37 includes all licensees that have been issued to date under the medical legacy program. So it's really not a full 37. It doesn't apply to the micro businesses, but a lot of this is going to depend on what the licensing process looks like for New Jersey this round. In the past, they've always been rounds that have opened up on a certain date. And again, you've had 45 days to complete the entire application and then submit. And then for that 45-day process, they only made X amount of licenses available. So even if there's no hard statutory cap, if the process follows what's been done historically in New Jersey, with a time-based request for application period, you have caps. I mean, you have de facto caps, which you'll only be able to, open up again in the next round. So on the offhand chance New Jersey doesn't follow that, then maybe there won't be caps. But my belief is there will be caps, 100%. And the follow-on to that is on a municipal level, right? So that's state. On a municipal level, there's caps. Some municipalities are not capping micro business licenses within their borders, right? So like they'll set a cap, let's say, on 2 retailers, 2 cultivators, but not for micro businesses. So theoretically, you have no caps, but you're still talking about finite real estate, and there's only so many places you can operate. So I'd kind of encourage you to think of this entire thing as there's caps everywhere. It's just a question of where those caps are and how you're going to navigate those caps.
What about, maybe you guys covered this in a previous session, but what about capital requirements?
Haven't been released yet. Other than this clinical registrant license, which is a different animal altogether. It's a vertically integrated medical license, which requires a partnership with an academic medical center for clinical research. So it doesn't apply here at all. But the requirements for that are 15 million. So you can kind of backtrack from there and extrapolate what the capital requirements are going to be. Obviously, the micro business capital requirements are going to be less, but you should have as much capital as you possibly can. I mean, really, the point of capital is just to show the state that you're a viable operator, right? So if you don't have, based on your pro formas and your financials and your planning that you're going to be submitting to the state and telling them, what exactly you're going to be doing, if you don't have the capital on hand to at least back up what you're telling the state you're going to be doing according to the plan that you're telling the state that you're going to be doing, you're going to have a problem. I've also seen some municipalities that are building into their local licensing requirements the same type of thing. There's going to be capital requirements on a local level. So I can't give you any firm guidelines. I mean, retail typically significantly less than cultivation, as well as manufacturing, just because it's a retail. I mean, the build out is not that expensive. You don't need expensive equipment. But still, think about what you're telling the state you're going to be doing, and at least show them that you have the ability to fund that.
Yeah, and I in this business, you can start up in many ways, right? There's like the big budget startup, but you can also bootstrap it, right? I mean, I know at least in some states, the definition of being up and running is, there's a seed in the ground, in a pot somewhere, and it popped, right? So, but that's another piece. Like, what is with the micro licenses? What does the roadmap look like for opening up? I guess without getting specifics of one vertical or another, what does their timeline look like?
I think it's going to be the same timeline overall, right? So from a license application perspective, micro businesses, at least as of now, and the annuals are on a 90-day application timeline. So you submit, state has 90 days, barring any extensions, to either approve or deny. Conditional licenses are 30 days. So that's a significant advantage there. And you're just doing the work on the tail end, right? So it's still the same amount of time at the end of the day. But you're just doing the work after you get your conditional license. So, from there, I mean, I still think you're looking at 8 to 12 months from once you get your license till you're fully operational. How can I find out if your municipality opted in? Other than knowing someone who knows something about your municipality, you got to go onto the municipal website and take a look at the minutes. There should be the governing body, usually the council. They'll have an agenda and they'll have meeting minutes where you can take a look at what the municipalities are. I also internet searches tend to be fairly effective now. I mean, there are multiple websites, that are tracking this stuff too daily. NJ.com will have a lot of the information as municipalities come online, particularly the more well-known municipalities. Another one, Heady, New Jersey, so HEADY, New Jersey, is a good website, and they tend to post updates daily on municipalities opting in and opting out. So really, honestly, just using the searches should get you what you need, more or less. But if all else fails, you can reach out to the municipality directly or check the website, the agendas and the meeting minutes, and you should find what you need there. In terms of the capital requirements, the question is, can we have LOIs from loan companies and other investors to prove funding is available, or do they need to see bank statements with cash as proof? I think it's going to be loose. I think if you're able to show lines of credit and agreements, funding agreements from loan companies, approvals, you probably should be okay. I mean, we'll need to see what the regs say, but particularly for micro businesses and conditional license applications, I think that'll probably suffice at this point.
How about on average, how many hours per week should we plan on allotting to the accelerator? I take the position that the more you put into it, the more you're going to get out of it. I don't think that there's any minimum amount. Certainly, the tool set is going to be valuable, even in small amounts. So for those that already maybe have submitted applications previously or have experience on this side, they might be able to get by with having only a few hours per week put into the program and using the tools in the program. For those that are brand new to the business and just trying to get oriented, and maybe don't even know what vertical they want to apply for, I would suspect you're going to want to treat it like a second job because eventually this is going to be your job. And really, there's no amount. I wouldn't try to throttle you in any way. You're going to be a winner if you treat the process like a competitive process where every last detail is going to be agonized over. Now, I know that can be scary, but the whole reason why we developed this system is to try to manage that process and break it down into digestible pieces. So, yeah, I don't know, Ellie, what do you think?
Yeah, I think you captured it well. The more the better. Like I said, every time you look at this, you tend to see something else. Plus, right now we're in the calm before the storm. Once the regs come out, there's going to be Q&A sessions with the state. There's going to be FAQs that are going to be released. There's constantly going to be updates and more information released. So it really will become a full-time job. So the more time you can invest, the better off you'll always be, for sure. And part of this process of what they're trying to do is empower you to, get the tools you need to actually become an effective operator and to understand what you're representing to the state and telling them that you're going to be doing, as opposed to just hiring someone to do everything for you, which, they may do a wonderful job and get you a license at the end of the day, but you're going to have a steep learning curve, and you're not going to know how to do any of the things that someone else has told the state that you're going to be doing. So it's really an empowerment process. So invest in the time and invest in yourself with it, and it will serve you.
Yeah, and coming from the kind of software side, I think of this as like, I'm sure you guys have all seen those coding boot camps that are very popular. I mean, I've hired a lot of very, very high quality engineers out of these coding boot camps. And you're talking about, people who just decided one day they wanted to be an engineer or a programmer, and so I think of this as very similar to that coding boot camp concept where, we want to be able to take you and show you the entire industry and then give you the tools to launch into it in whatever way that you think, fits your future the best. All right.
That's all the questions I see, Walter.
We are 15 minutes over anyway. And my kids are in the basement getting feisty. So I am gonna call it a session, and I hope that anyone who was on who has remaining questions, feel free to reach out or tune back in next week, same place, same time, and we'll pick it back up where we left off. Ellie, appreciate your time tonight, and all the people who were able to join, thank you as well, and have a great evening.
Bye.